With the holiday season coming up, one of the things that people trying to lose weight seem to struggle with the most is dessert. Whether it's puddings, cobblers, pies, whatever you find at a Thanksgiving dinner, trying not to eat these things can be pretty tough. So here's an idea. Make one that's low calorie, high protein that you can eat, enjoy, and not feel guilty on. To be honest, I threw this recipe together about a week ago in the spirit of Thanksgiving coming up, and it was good enough I ate the whole pie in 24 hours. While it's not my proudest moment, the pie only had 1,600 calories and 130 grams of protein. So I stayed under my calories and I hit my macros just fine. So if you want to feel no guilt while you're eating dessert this holiday season, try this recipe. Let's get started. Welcome back to Former Fat Guy Fitness. I'm Tyler, your former fat guy, and for the protein sweet potato pie recipe, start as always by getting the ingredients you'll need. What you're going to need is sweet potatoes, 517 grams or 20 ounces of them, 91 grams or 3 scoops of a whey casing vanilla protein powder, 60 grams or a quarter cup of light butter, 150 grams or about a half cup of liquid egg whites, 180 milliliters or 3/4 of a cup of fat-free Fairlife, 84 grams or a half cup of a 0-calorie brown sugar, 30 grams or 1 cup of stevia, 3.5 grams or 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, and 1 gram and 1/2 teaspoon of ground ginger. For the crust, you'll need 110 grams of Joe Duff's homemade cereal and 100 grams of zero sugar maple farm syrup. Outside of the ingredients, you'll just need some basic equipment. You'll want 2 mixing bowls. You'll want yourself a 9-inch pie round. Go with a 9-inch for what we're doing here, because if you go with a smaller one, your cook times will be longer. If you have a bigger one, your cook times will be shorter. You'll also want a potato masher so you can mash the potatoes when they're finished cooking. To cook the potatoes, you'll want a baking sheet to set them on and let them roast on. And it wouldn't be a cooking video if I didn't tell you. Get yourself a food scale. If you're trying to lose weight, you need this to measure all your ingredients out. And you'll also see we have the Ninja blender out. You don't need the Ninja, just any kind of blender or NutriBullet to take that cereal and turn it into a fine powder, which will make the crust basically. And as always, if you need anything here, links are in the description below. If you check it out, it does help the channel. A couple notes on ingredients. As with any baking recipe, go with a whey casing protein powder and make sure it's a good tasting protein powder. Protein powder will add a bunch of flavor to it, and if you go with a regular whey protein powder, you will dry your pie out and it will be a brick. It will not be a pie. So whey casing and go with a good tasting one. PES Science is the one I always use. No, I'm not sponsored. It's just awesome for baking. Outside of that, if you don't have this homemade cereal, you can go with all bran or a different kind of cereal, but it will change your macros. Now, to get started, you're going to want to preheat your oven to 400 degrees, and after that, it's a pretty simple process. Just wash your potatoes by hand real quick, grab yourself a fork, get stab happy with it. You don't have to do it a certain amount, just like I said, get stab happy with it. Then take it, put it on your roasting sheet, and put them in the oven for about 60 to 75 minutes. Depending on the size of your potato, your cook time will vary. You just want to make sure that they're good and done. They want to be mushy. You don't want any hard pieces of potato. So check it near the end of the time with a toothpick, see if it can pierce through, see how soft it is. But I would let it go much longer than shorter because, like I said, you don't want hard pieces. So I'll go ahead and throw this in the oven. While these are baking in the oven, I'll show you how we do the crust. With the potatoes in the oven, they're going to take long enough we can move on to the hardest part of the recipe, which is the crust. Take your cereal, blend it up in your blender, turn it into a fine powder, and then put it into your mixing bowl. Then you're going to take your 100 grams of maple syrup and put it in the mixing bowl alongside of it, and then you're going to stir all that together until it becomes incorporated. Once it's one big giant mixture, you're going to take that ball of crust and throw it in the middle of your pie tin. Then take your fingertips and just slowly start pushing it down from the center and working your way out to the edges. Once you get farther out to the edges, you can take a little water dish and get your fingertips wet. That will keep the crust from sticking to your hands. And then the thinner it gets, you're going to want to use something like a spoon or a spatula to help start pressing it against the edges. You don't want to tear it as you're going. You want to keep everything solidly packed. But once you get that pushed all the way out to the outside of the edges, we're done for about an hour to an hour and a half until these potatoes finish. So I'll finish this up and then we'll check on the potatoes. Okay, so it's been about 75 minutes. I pulled the potatoes out to check them real quick. Just poke them with the toothpick, see if they're soft and squishy. Like I said, you don't want any hard pieces in your potato. Mine were definitely good, so I took a knife and I peeled the outside edges. Once they're all finished up, the skin comes off very easily. But with the potatoes out, switch your oven to 350 degrees. That's the temperature that your pie is going to bake at. Now we're just down to the mash, the mix, and the bake. Cut up your potatoes and make sure you weigh out 20 ounces of potatoes into the bigger bowl. Whatever you have left over, you can save for another time or do what I'm going to do and give them to my dogs. Once you have that in there, you're going to take the butter, put it in the same bowl, and then mash it all together until it's nice and creamy. And the other bowl that you have, you're going to take your sugar, your brown sugar, your protein powder, your egg white, and your milk, put it all in that bowl, and mix it together with the hand blender. Once that's all blended together, take it, put it in your bigger bowl with the potatoes, and then blend that with the hand blender as well. After that's all finished up, just take your cinnamon and your ginger to put on top of it, blend that up, and everything's ready to go. Pour it in your pie pan, use a spatula to smooth everything out, and put it in your oven at 350 for about 35 minutes. As always, your times will vary. You just want the center of your pie to be set. It might look like a souffle where things have risen up, but once you pull it out and everything's all finished, it will deflate itself and it will flatten it back out. So I'm gonna get all that together here. We'll get it pulled out of the oven and then we'll go over the macros. All right, pie's all finished up. For the final tips, my pie ended up going for about 40 minutes. Like I said, you want the center of your pie to get set. So at about the 35-minute mark, pull it out. If it's still gooey, give it a couple more minutes. If it's set, pull it out, let it cool. About 20 minutes, cut it, serve it up. This is a fantastic pie for any holiday treat or dessert to where you don't have to feel guilty. You can still get some protein and keep it low calorie. For the macros, for one slice, you're looking at 196 calories, 19.8 grams of carbs, 7.4 grams of fat, and 15.5 grams of protein. So if you try this recipe and you like it, hit the like button down below. If you have any other holiday favorites you'd like to see be made over the next month or so, leave them in the comments. If you want to help the channel out or see more coming at me from down the road, hit the subscribe button. But in the meantime, it's time for my favorite part. That's the end of this, so I can try this.